Observers. Zhonghua Telecom's main services include mobile communications with a tight-knit network, allowing customers more mobile lives. Data communications, bringing the world to customers and adding value to life. Fixed network communications, making life better on a foundation of stability. Enterprise services, providing optimal solutions, meeting every need. In order to satisfy the needs of the domestic market and develop potential overseas markets, we have again teamed up with Singapore Telecommunications to jointly invest in development of the ST-2 satellite. The superior features of the ST-2 satellite will enable us to continue to provide superior voice, data, and video service. We plan to provide broadband internet access and HD high-resolution multimedia service throughout Asia, while also relying on large bandwidth international submarine cable networks to cement our status as a communications hub in the East Asia region. Zhonghua Telecom is vigorously integrating information and communications technology, including our cloud system framework, software development platforms, and application services. We will use ubiquitous communications to help companies develop new opportunities and let consumers enjoy a brighter future. Zhonghua Telecom will always outdo itself in an effort to provide even better service.
3 minutes remaining in the upper stage burn. Everything going according to plan. ST-2 arrived in Kourou on April 5th. There's an interesting note on the platform. This is only the second time this type of platform, called the DS-2000, has been launched by Ariane. The first time was on the Superbird 7. For a GSAT, Sky Perfect GSAT people. That was in August of 2007 on Flight 185, if you recall. ST-2 and Superbird 7 are the only two times this platform has been commercialized outside Japan and launched by a non-Japanese launch vehicle. Our next film now on Singtel, the second ST-2 partner.
We're committed to driving customers' success in this evolving landscape by delivering innovative and cost-effective solutions. ST-2 and our industry-leading satellite services will transform industries and change lifestyles. We are bringing financial services to credit card and ATMs in remote locations. In the oil and gas sectors, we're bringing new capabilities to people working on oil rigs and platforms. In the area around changing consumer lifestyles, we're bringing media and content to millions of households throughout Asia with ST-2 and our satellite capabilities.
Satellite services play an important role in Singtel's overall vision for the corporate business market. They enable us to shape and lead key markets such as the maritime, broadcast, and logistics industries. Singtel is the only homegrown company in Singapore to own commercial satellites, and we're very excited about the launch of ST-2, our second satellite. ST-2 is an important part of Singtel's vision to transform the way our customers live and work.
We have now been picked up by our final tracking station in Kenya at a place called Malindi, which will see the satellite separations. All is going perfectly on schedule. We're awaiting now the extinction of the upper stage, due to come about 24:51 roughly. You should be hearing the DDO call out that extinction, cutoff command of the upper stage, and then we'll be out of the powered flight phases.
Extinction du moteur HM7B sur commande de guidage.
And there it is, right on time, coming at about 9,800 kilometers up, roughly. Again, the order given on the onboard computer. You saw the nozzle shutting down there. We're in the fourth flight phase.
Début de la manœuvre d'orientation au profit du satellite ST-2.
Before we explain the fourth flight phase, a film on Ariane space and its collaboration with ST-2. Ariane Space's offices in Tokyo and Singapore give it a strong presence in Southeast Asia, even in tough economic times.
Arianespace has always got privileged relationships with Southeast Asia satellite operators. One reason may be the similarity of this region with Europe, as it consists of many independent countries. Today, Southeast Asia has a strong need for satellite connectivity, and the demand has grown by about 6% in 2010 despite the economic downturn. It is still predicted to grow in the near and medium terms.
ST-2 is a joint project between Singapore and Taiwan. 5 tons of telecom technology will let the satellite renew services originally offered by ST-1.
ST-2 is a replacement and expansion spacecraft for both Chunghwa and Singtel. As a result of that, we were looking for a launch vehicle that had a very high reliability of being able to get the spacecraft in orbit when we needed it. And from that background, the Ariane 5 is possibly the most reliable launch vehicle on the market today, and that was the prime driver for the selection of Arianespace for providing the launch service for ST-2.
In the future, Singtel will collaborate with Asia Broadcast Satellite and Korea Telecom on satellites ST-3, ABS-2, and KoreaSat-8, all Arianespace customers. I think I gave you the wrong figure for the kilometer when we had the extinction of the upper stage. It's 900 kilometers roughly, not 9,800 kilometers, obviously. Separation of ST-2 coming up in just a few short seconds. We should be hearing from the DDO. Always a very emotional moment as all eyes are on the computers and the ears and the headphones, telephones awaiting news. Satellite separation. This will be the second satellite for our friends at ST.
Séparation du satellite ST-2.
There we are. First good news of this evening. Smiles in the directorate there. You see how it happened. She's pushed away from the mothership by a series of springs. And some early congratulations. You see that very politely here. The people in the hall have refrained from applauding. They'll be applauding after separation of the second satellite. A word on ST-2's post-separation activities from Mark Blair again.
ST-2 will separate from the launch vehicle 27 minutes after launch. At 39 minutes after launch, we will receive our first signal from the spacecraft from the Nangara site in Western Australia. 1.5 hours after launch, we deploy the solar arrays, and then on the 2nd, 4th and 5th days after launch, we'll be firing the aperture kick engine to transfer us from our geostationary transfer orbit into geosynchronous orbit. The payload testing will commence 12 days after launch, with completion of in-orbit testing on the 24th of June. Service is expected to commence on ST-2. Commercial service will commence on ST-2 in July.
We mentioned that the upper stage, which you can see there, has a propulsion role to push Ariane across the Atlantic. It has a second role, which has to do with ballistics, which is what's going on now. Its second job is beginning. Their first satellite was separated in one direction, and the SYLDA, which is the black bell-shaped structure that you saw earlier, holding the second satellite, has to be separated in a second direction, and the third satellite, GSAT, has to be pushed off in yet a third direction. So what happens now?
Du système de lancement double Ariane.
What happens is a series of ballistic-like maneuvers. Here's the SYLDA being pushed off in another direction from ST-2, revealing GSAT. The SYLDA is this carrying structure that we've used for over 100 times. We have 6 versions of it. We're using the largest version, about 6.5 meters tall, tonight. Lets us carry the second passenger. The separation of the SYLDA came right on time at about 1,330 kilometers. On the outside of the launcher are a series of thrusters, and you might see them popping on and off. It's not propulsion, it's just moving in the pitch and the roll maneuvers to move the satellite. Our final film on post-separation activities for GSAT.
After separation, Master Control Center at Assam, South India will take the responsibility of the operational and issuing the commands. By the help of the network spread over the entire globe, it will deploy the solar array and the communication payload antenna. Afterwards, payload and housekeeping systems will be checked thoroughly, and by the middle of June 2011, spacecraft will be put into service.
We are in the middle of the ballistics phase. There are 18 phases, actually. The separation of ST-2, the separation of the SYLDA, those we've had. And the next coming up is the separation of GSAT. Now, these short maneuvers of the nozzle firings range from about 5 seconds to over 3 minutes. Positioning, again, the GSAT at the moment away from the other satellites. GSAT is the 14th satellite launched for ISRO by Ariane, I think has been mentioned, the 16th satellite that ISRO has built. The first satellite that Ariane launched for the Indian Space Research Organization goes back to Ariane's third flight on an Ariane 1. And it weighed a smallish 670 kilos compared with the 3 tons tonight. You can see how the program has evolved. And there is the second bit of good news. Successful separation of GSAT-8, and the hall breaking into applause. You can see how that happens there, pushed away, the same system, from the vehicle equipment bay and what remains of the 775 tons that we had at liftoff. Separation of GSAT-8 coming at about 1,800 kilometers up. Smiles all around, as you can see. The champagne is on ice, and the cigars are being made ready. We'll have our post-launch speeches coming up. But before that, now that GSAT-8 is up, it too will have 3 apogee firings, and then solar array reflector deployment coming up in about 3.5 days, and then 3-axis stabilization in 4 days, and station acquisition in about 1 week. That's for GSAT. We're waiting for the speeches now. We'll be hearing, of course, from Jean-Yves Le Gall and representatives from both customers. We, before that, probably will have time to go to a replay of the launch, which you witnessed live 30 minutes ago. But Ariane 5 once again delivering, capping, as we said, a very busy period here. Successful launch of Flight 202, 9 tons of space hardware. We sent up 10 tons in the last flight on April 22nd. Flight number 201. I think we're ready for our replay, launch replay in just a minute. We have several launch sites, cameras at several sites across the base, and they send us in their replay. Here we go. Nice shot of Ariane taking off. I think that was from our closest observation site. I see Jean-Yves Le Gall making his way to the podium to begin the speeches. His will be the next voice. You will hear Mr. Le Gall.
As you just witnessed, this 58th Ariane 5 launch is lifted and placed into GSO. The satellites ST-2 and GSAT-8, which makes me, of course, very happy. First, because this is our 44th consecutive successful launch, which is all the more remarkable. Second, because this launch takes place less than 1 month after the previous one, which, of course, demonstrates the expertise of our operational team, who launch after launch has proved it is, of course, the best in the world. Last, because we just lofted into orbit 2 satellites for India and Asia, and are particularly happy to support the development of one of the most vibrant regions of the world. And it is not, since the start of the year, we're the only one having put into orbit 4 satellites for